From the Corner Office is brought to you by Synovus Bank, championing business growth through trusted, relationship-driven banking throughout the Gulf Coast region. Linda Dulye exudes high energy, the leadership coach, consultant, and workplace expert in talking about everything from reversing organizational breakdowns into breakthroughs to understanding the promise and pitfalls of AI brings, as we at From the Corner Office like to call it, the juice. The Business Observer writes regularly about high energy leaders like Linda, both in print and online. To read more, subscribe. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer's From the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Linda Dulye of Dulye Co. Linda, welcome and thanks for being here.
Excited to be here. Yes, wearing my orange for Dulye Co., but for also Syracuse University.
Yes.
Big score in Jerry McNamara. We'll get into sports, I know.
Yeah, we're going to get into sports and a little bit of your background in a little bit. We're going to talk about that. That's pretty cool. I mean, orange to a lot of people in Florida could be Gator orange, but I get it. It's Syracuse orange. We can certainly chat about that. Linda, we're going to talk about Dulye Co. and kind of your leadership career and experience. Before we get into that, let's get our audience to know you a little bit better. We already know you're a Syracuse sports fan, but we're going to do some first ever questions. Linda, tell us, what was your first ever job?
First ever job, 8 years old, working in the bindery department of my mother's commercial printing business. My other first ever job that really got me to where I found my passion was 13 years old, writing obituaries for my father's weekly newspapers.
Really, 13 years old writing obituaries. Wow, that's I wrote obituaries as well. I think I must have been a sophomore in college. I was 19, not 13, but wow, that's some early experience. Where was that?
Family business, Walden, New York, which is Orange County, New York, lower Hudson Valley. And my dad had he had 6 weekly newspapers, and my mother had a commercial printing business. And everything was housed under one roof. So I actually advanced in the same building, got my promotions within the same building.
Yeah, it was vertically integrated before it was cool.
That's right.
You had it all going. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, tell us another first. What was your first car?
Yeah. So the first car I learned to drive on was a VW Yellow Beetle convertible. And it had one temperature volume, which was intensely hot. But the first car I ever owned and bought on my own was a 1973 Firebird Formula with a T-top red interior and dual exhaust, 354 barrel.
Wow, and you had that like right off, like just ready to go. You knew that car. That was very important to you at a stage in your life.
Bought it on my own, wanted it so bad. And by the way, really not good for Syracuse snowstorms, okay? Not a good vehicle to be driving in Syracuse. Oh my God.
Yes, I remember the first time I was in a rented car. It was actually in downstate. It was north of New York City with my son, who probably was 4 or 5 at the time, and he looked at an ice scraper and said, "What's this?" So that's a total Florida boy for sure. Linda, what was the first concert you ever attended?
First concert on my own, big girl, right? So it was high school, going to SPAC, which is in Saratoga, not Sarasota. I know, close in New York State. And I saw Chicago.
Wow. All right, cool. We're not going to make you sing unless you really wanted to. That's a different podcast. All right, Linda, so Dulye Co., tell us kind of, what is Dulye Co.? What is your mission and niche, and what do you do for clients?
Right. Well, Dulye Co. goes by a tagline, and it is about driving performance through spectator-free workplaces. And everyone says that's kind of cool. What's spectator-free? Our mission is really to bring out the human dynamics in an organization, regardless of the size or the industry. The people dynamics really are what makes success as strong as possible. And a lot of companies get very absorbed on the tech side. We look at what can we do to promote the people to be their best, see their best, seize their best, and contribute it towards that overall company mission and vision.
So talk us through, I don't know if there's a standard, but maybe give us an example of what you've done for a client so we could better kind of understand what that means when you say help people be their best.
Be their best. And obviously, what does that take? It takes an enlightened leadership team to help also spend their time being interested in their workforce, immersed with them, and interacting with them. Um, where we really shine and where we mostly get involved is where there's a dynamic change happening in organizations. And there's a lot of that today with the infusion of AI. But a change can be restructuring because of a merger and acquisition, because of business change, good or bad. And people need to perform differently than they did in the past. And so where we come in is helping people, number one, is understand why. What has to change? And why. And you have to really have root causes very clearly laid out for people to want to move with you. The next is how are we going to help you get there? We can't snap our fingers overnight and expect people to change mentally or in their actions of contributing to the new workflow, work structuring. So help them understand, what do I need to do to be part of this new change? And then three, help them have a voice in being part of the change. And that's probably the hardest one, because organizations are not structured to hear from way down here when you've got 6, 7, 8 layers.
Yeah. So Linda, tell us what advice do you give to leaders in the position of those organizations where they can be hearing from people that they're not really hearing from?
Right. And hearing extremely important. You have to really turn up that listening skill. Um, Helping them underwear how far removed they are from the real vibe of what's happening out there. So those layers, as you go up in an organization, they basically become barriers, barriers of feedback, barriers of insights, most of all barriers of learning. And helping leaders understand you have a vast amount of knowledge that you haven't acquired because you really haven't heard about what are the ideas and the insights of those folks on the front line. It's awfully quiet. There's a lot of nodding when you go to most of your meetings. You get a lot of agreement, and what's really happening is after people leave the meeting and they're saying all these things and you're not hearing it. So you can't lead with that void of knowledge. You can't. You're just leading with your own insights. So helping them understand what they are missing out, creating, I guess, a FOMO feeling. There's this fear of missing out, and you need to get out there. And the other thing is you need to get out there alone. You can't come with the entourage. You have to become a natural part of the workplace, and that means not look uncomfortable. It's very sad to see leaders looking uncomfortable when they're walking out and spending time in person with their organization, with their frontline team members, or even virtually not knowing what to say in a virtual team meeting because they haven't been there. This is
Yes.
new terrain.
Yes, oddly, Linda, you and I on that point, I say oddly because you and I talked a couple of weeks ago before we went on this podcast, and you and I have this similar, or we worked at the same newspaper actually a bazillion years ago, the Daily Local News in Westchester, Pennsylvania, sort of western suburb of Philadelphia. And I was thinking about our call after, and our times didn't overlap, but there was this. I do have a question for you. There was an editor there whose attitude was, I'm just going to stay in my office and let everybody figure it out. And that's kind of how things ran amok in the culture. So, how does what you're saying sort of resonate to helping companies create better cultures?
Right. So we talked about this immersion. Today more than ever, because of and I really do want to look at what's happening today, because you can't listen to anything, read anything without AI screaming and its intrusion into the workplace and paralyzing everyone. So this is a change. There have been changes all the time in businesses and organizations. And what we have to do is help people understand. I've got to get people comfortable with the why we're changing, how we're going to change, and not by edict. They can't be spectators to the movement that has to happen. They've got to be on the team working and supporting this new change effort that has to happen. So I think the biggest thing is, but very simply, is helping a leader understand spectators are a liability for your organization that you cannot afford. And that's one of the first things you need to do with your people is help create a sense of trust, a sense of understanding. First, they got to trust you. They got to understand where you want them to go. And then you've got to be with them as they move forward. You can't be, again, distance apart physically or mentally.
Yeah. And so you talk about also AI proofing your career. What does that mean and how do you do that?
Oh, yeah, AI proof your career, and we are doing a lot of coaching on that because a lot of people just don't know how do I move on. This is I've met the enemy. It's AI and it's bigger than me. Well, no. So you really do need to constantly be re-evolving yourself. I often listen to people say, "Well, I'm going to have to dust off my resume. I haven't done it in 5 years." Seriously? That's one of these dynamic tools for you. You constantly need to be updating your resume because hopefully you're updating your knowledge and your skills accordingly. So AI proof, I like to have in my hand actually a rear view mirror. And I like to use this a lot when I'm coaching, whether it's workforce frontline or leaders. That rear view mirror, you cannot be comfortable looking into this anymore. You need to be looking straight forward and looking at what skills do I have that are intricate and intrinsic that I can adapt for this new changed workplace that I'm now in. As opposed to, I don't know AI, I don't want to get to know it, and I'm just going to stay here in my bubble and it's going to somehow bypass me. And I do
Yep.
hear that a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine you're hearing people saying, "I'm at the stage of my career where this isn't gonna matter and I'm not gonna do this," and I'm sure there's other examples of that throughout time, and it doesn't really work out, right? Like,
Doesn't
to what
work.
they think could happen.
And who's gonna hire someone that's going to say, "Yeah, that's just not my gig." Well, I'm sorry, it's our new way of trying to work and move forward in an organization or make money as a company or provide our best services as a nonprofit. This is the reality. Let's move on with it.
Yeah, I think and I'm curious how you come out on this within your work at your organization with your company. My attitude is I want almost in a way not to write stories because I have a problem with AI slop right now, but I want to
Yes.
use AI to be more efficient in my work. I just don't know what to do right now. Like there's so much coming at you. How do you treat AI as a tool personally and professionally?
Right, and with my team, because we do have, a team at Julie and Company, and we do utilize it, but we don't utilize it to do our work. We utilize it to spark some creativity. It may spark some questions. AI is a really good generator of initial questions. By the way, curiosity, very key for you to continually use in AI proofing your skills. Have curiosity, keep growing it. So AI generating questions for you to probe or a first draft of something in terms of content that is another spin for you to look at and think about this is the foundation. Now how do I really build my touch on my work on top of it? But this can't be the work that's going to be done for me. AI can't do my work. It can help me get started. Might also help like sort of check me along the way and give another perspective if I check in midpoint, but it isn't going to be the finisher of my work. It's
Yeah,
cannot shape my work.
yeah, for sure.
Then we get lazy, Mark. Let's face it, very easy to get lazy with AI.
100%, 100%, you get complacent, and, I was thinking about it too with AI, and then I wanna go to your background, but, um, the other thing I think people miss is sometimes in some conversations I've heard with AI is, I like doing writing, like, I like what I do. I don't want necessarily outside of the AI slop and the ethical reasons and creativity and all that, like, I feel like I've done it a long time, I'm pretty good at it, and I want to do it. I sometimes you don't want the computer to do your work, right? You want to be more efficient in other ways.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you're a writer. I'm a writer. We were reporters. We always had an editor that looked at our work after we wrote it. You have to have another perspective. AI is a machine perspective. It's not a human perspective. So having both, by the way, is a really good tool, really good
Yeah.
approach.
Linda, how did you get into this line of work? Tell us, take us through the elevator pitch, I guess, of your career and how you got to Dulye and Company.
Right. Well, you mentioned our days as reporters, and that really
Yes,
was my first post-graduation job, daily newspaper reporter. I loved it. I loved having to become a subject matter expert right away. It was in my first job happened to be in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly,
sure,
with a
KOP, yep,
newspaper called Today's Post, which was a daily suburban newspaper tied into the Philadelphia Bulletin, was a big daily newspaper. God rest its soul. But I love journalism. That was my roots. It was my roots from my dad. What I didn't love about journalism was its hours and its pay. So I pretty much
what?
was
It's
working.
great, what are you talking? What say you, Linda? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm getting on my yacht after this call, so oh, well,
Exactly.
for you, you
Right.
lose.
That's right. I didn't have that recipe
Sure.
you've got.
You work for
You
the
know,
Observer Media Group in Sarasota, so
so you're working any night meeting you can to make 25 bucks and you're working every holiday possible. And that was all great. I loved it. But my friends that were working in companies were having time off and making a heck of a lot more money than me. And it wasn't just, it wasn't just the money. It was the fact that I became very vulnerable. I mean, I lost my job 5 years after our daily newspaper tried to actually form a union, and our publisher closed it. Waited a week and restructured and reopened a different type of publication. But we all lost our jobs, which was actually a very good thing for me because it really helped me understand about the adaptability of my skills after doing a lot of part-time jobs, one being the daily local news, into this thing called corporate communications. And there was a lot of adaptation of my skills, my curiosity of people. You have to have that as a reporter, you know that. A- and being from a family businesses, I really do love organizations. I love how organizations perform, whether it's a sports team or whether it's a work team. And I realized that corporate communications was really this nirvana that I never knew about in college, that my skills really applied well to. And I started seeking positions in CorpCom. And it started with the university that I did my master's at, Drew University. And then I went on to General Electric, AlliedSignal, which is now Honeywell, Duracell. And my last corporate job before I started Dulye Company, which was leading communications, was Public Service Electric and Gas.
wow. Alright, so you got this company, we talked about what you're doing with clients. Going back to leadership, Linda, what's one characteristic every leader should have in your opinion?
You got to like people. I mean, that fundamentally, you have to like people. I spend a lot of time with people who are immersed in engineering, and engineers like black and white a lot. My clients tend to be in that realm of engineering and finance, and they like black and white. Well, guess what? People are gray. They may be black, may be white one day, but we switch, and we have this unpredictability, and that's something that you really, as a leader, have to like. And the other dynamic is, I mentioned it earlier, is you have to be curious. I always approach it is that I think about in my own day, every morning, meeting somebody, hopefully meeting somebody new, and what can I learn from and about somebody. And I think if you maintain that mantra as a leader, it's a really good mantra for your personal success and your
Yeah,
success in front of an organization.
yeah. We talk on this podcast, but I talk to my team often. Our line is be curious, not cynical. As
Yeah.
you know, especially in journalism and media, really in a lot of fields, you can get cynical very easy. But I think it's so important to be curious about what is going on in the world around you. Another aspect of leadership we talk a lot about on this podcast is feedback, both giving feedback and receiving feedback. What's a feedback you've gotten in your career that maybe you didn't think it at the time, but looking back has really helped you become a better leader and business person?
Linda, your job's been eliminated.
Yeah, that's
Um, that was really, and I can vividly remember it the day it happened because number one, I didn't go to college expecting to lose my job 5 years after graduation. Yeah, that wasn't really. And learning how to pull myself out of that abyss. It was a very low blow. I never ever imagined myself unemployed. And I needed to figure out, what do I do? what do I do? I'm in a city where I mean, I'm not near anybody in my family. I am my resource, and I need to figure out how I'm going to pick myself up and move on. And if I didn't have that happen and didn't have it happen so young, I mean, you really do acquire a nimbleness and a resilience that I think is actually, I know it is. It's invaluable. It has been forever since in my life and my
Yeah.
professional career. But
Yeah.
that was hard feedback to get.
Yeah, for sure. Who have been some of your mentors, Linda, and what have you learned from them?
Well, I did mention I worked for General Electric, and I worked in 4 GE businesses during my 7 years with General Electric, all in the realm of the business of GE Aerospace. At the time, Jack Welch was our CEO, and I had the opportunity to interact with Welch a number of occasions. Um, he was extremely. I want to start first with my parents, probably the best mentors as well. They never gave me any special treatment working for them in their business. But Welsh was extremely clear as a leader in terms of where we're going to go, very open in his communication, had the game plan, no hiding of the game plan, no only specialized will see the game plan if you're this level or title, open game plan. And I don't see any chain around your ankle to that desk or that workstation. So if you're here, that means you want to be here and you want to contribute. And those fundamentals of Welsh, I know a lot of people did not like Welsh, very controversial leader, but he had a book called Straight from the Gut, and Jack was a guy who was straight from the gut. No mystery behind the Wizard of Oz, green curtain, wondering really what's going on, pulling the levers.
Yeah.
You know those invisible leaders. This guy was not that.
No, and you said controversial. That's interesting to me because he had this career arc, Jack Welch, where like he was sort of the hero of corporate America for a while, and then things changed, and he was kind of that guy still standing there doing the rank and yank and these like different things that he did that we look at today and we're like, yeah, he's being transparent, he's being open, he's setting the vision, setting the goals, the things you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're familiar enough with upstate New York. We have a whole battleground of former cities that were vibrant because GE had big operations there, and we went through downsizing, and they've left town, and there's nothing. I understand those cities. Syracuse is one. Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where I have an office, is another. So I understand that there have been many communities decimated by General Electric and its evolution of its business portfolio. However, if you look at any successful organization, you have to keep ahead of the times. Jack Welch, when I worked at GE, I thought we were at least 5 to 10 years ahead of the pack. And the downsizing that we went through was just 5 years before everybody else started going through it because they were late adopters to Six Sigma, which was process improvement. And yeah, we just happened to get the ridicule or the lambasting first. But every organization has to go, and you're seeing it now, Mark, with AI having restructuring and downsizing
I
impact
was
on
just gonna say,
organizations.
what a apropos turn to connect to AI and where we are in terms of businesses and the sort of landscape on that. Okay, Linda, we're winding down, and normally at this point in the podcast, I will ask what's one thing, and I certainly can ask that you're looking forward to with Dulye and Company, but we have not, and I want to hear that for the rest of 2026. But we have not gotten to what are you looking forward to as a Syracuse University Orange basketball fan. This is your time to shine. What are you looking forward to, both for Dueling Company and Syracuse?
You know that thing that's on right now, and I was so excited to watch and cheer on UConn? I hope I'm cheering on Syracuse, making point a 4-second buzzer beating victory to go to the Final Four next year. I don't want
Yes.
to cheer on another team. I want to cheer on my team in the Final
Yes.
Four. That
I
is what I am most looking
I
forward to.
love it. We are and we're recording this, in that exciting week between the end of the Elite 8 games and the beginning of the Final 4, so we don't even know who's gonna get to the
Yeah,
championship game as we're recording this, but alright, so that's what you're looking forward to Syracuse being back in the Final 4. Got it.
Jerry was there. He wants to get us there again. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
And what about Dulye Company? What are you most excited about for the rest of 2026 for your business?
Right. I mean, and I see AI as a tremendous opportunity for us to help organizations figure out this question that they're mulling over with right now, and it's the people factor. How do we infuse all this technology, and how do we have a strategy we call the blended workplace. How do we create the ideal blended workplace where technology and humans have a harmony and work together in an interfacing way that makes us successful as opposed to polarizing way. Those two, technology and humans, they can't be enemies. It won't work. So building this collaborative workplace, we call it the blended workplace, and helping organizations real one thing, there's a lot of focus right now, Mark, on buying the technology, applying the technology, and people are being forgotten in this equation. And when I say people, I'm talking about the frontline workers, your rank and file people, heck, your managers. It doesn't really matter. The people dynamic has now been sort of sliding in importance. I want that equated. I want these two on an equal level, and working with organizations to realize you have to put equal emphasis on both.
Yes, humans and technology together. I love it. Excellent. Linda Dulye, Dulye Company, thank you so much for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
That was great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordon. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.